I have a lot of leverage. I have leverage in my home, in the office. Pretty much if it doesn't require me to do it, there's somebody probably doing it for me. And that allows me to be present with my family or here with you or the team or whatever.
Welcome to the Raquel Show. This show is for entrepreneurs who want to play bigger in business and in life. And today I have a very special guest who I met at my wealth mastermind. And from every single person in that room, they kept telling me to meet this woman. And I was super impressed with her because not only is she one of the few that I know in the industry that actually runs a massive real estate business, she's also a mom, a wife, an investor, and loves all things health. So she also does events, retreats. And so, I could talk about anything with this woman. And she's one of our incredible speakers at our upcoming Play Bigger event in Scottsdale. So welcome to the show. I like to say Spring Bee because she did a reel on that, but she'll tell you exactly how you say her last name. And so welcome to the show, Spring.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super honored. Like your goals in life, I assume most girls think that. So thank you.
No, your goals. So that's why I was like, I'm super excited to have this woman on my show. So how do you say your last name for everyone that has not seen your reel yet?
Yes. So my last name is Bengtzen, but it's spelled ridiculous. So it's Bengtzen. And so nobody can figure that out. It's a telemarketer or somebody's staring at my name, how do I say that? And they're like, Bengtzen. So we just made it Spring Bee. So my website, Spring Bee, everything is just Spring Bee. It's perfect.
Oh, I can feel your pain because I have two Qs, right? I Q my first and they call me Rachel, they call me Rochelle, they call me anything but Raquel and forget about my last name.
Yeah.
So you have been a woman that has had massive numbers in real estate. And I'd love to kind of dive into that first. You guys are on track to serve how many families? Tell them a little bit about who Spring is, what's your background? Because I think people just automatically think that it just came, all in place and it was so easy.
Yeah. So I am from Salt Lake City, Utah. We will do about 800 homes this year. We're on pace to do that. We run in a very seasonal market. So we'll see where the next 3 months go. But it hasn't always been that way. I went to hair school, believe it or not. So when I was in high school, and that is what I did for about 7 years. And then I got married and we moved an hour from the salon that I built my clientele. And I was going to real estate school just for fun. I honestly, if you guys want to know, I thought I was going to be a stay-at-home mom, have kids, and buy a few investment properties in my marriage, right? And so fast forward, I got my real estate license. I quit my job at the salon and I worked for a developer on a golf course. So I sold vacation homes as if you were on your vacation skiing or golfing in the mountains. And I was like, this will just be fun. I'll make 60 grand a year and I'll go golfing every day and skiing and have kids. And quickly did I realize that's not the case in real estate, right? You don't really go golfing and skiing every day. But I started making money and it was a blast. And from there, I started a team in 2010 and we always ran a very small organization. So 4 agents. I wanted everybody to be top producers until a few years ago. I was just at that point where I'm like, this is exhausting. This model is exhausting. Agents leaving, coming, going. I'm still in production. And we actually have a mutual coach that I went to him and said, I think I'm just going to burn it down. I think I'm going to go back into production and just do my own thing. And he just laughed. Raquel, he laughed at me. He's like, do you really think that's what's going to happen? You're going to go sell homes the rest of your life? He's like, you need to get some leverage and scale. And so from that moment, I went on a massive mission and we've got, in the last 2 years, we have over 70 agents and it's fun. So I'm having a blast.
Oh my gosh, 2 years, 70 agents. That's some fast growth, fast scale. What did you learn through that process? Like, obviously something clicked for you to say like, okay, this sucks. 4 agents, we're not going to be small and mighty. Like we're going to go on in this massive growth. What did you learn when it came to like recruiting? And where did you see that like light at the end of the tunnel? Because most of the people that are listening are agents or entrepreneurs. And when they're scaling, it's not always fun. And they end up like quitting before they actually see the benefits.
So I actually had 4 agents probably about 5-6 years ago. And then I started to scale and got to about 9 or 10. And that's when I had the conversation with Brett. And what I learned from that was a couple of things. The growth has come really from who I've hired. So at that point, I brought in leverage that really could go in. I had to take a step back pay-wise, right? It was a little bit scary as a real estate team to say, okay, I'm going to go guarantee this salary or bring this person on. But I also knew like if they could bring an agent count and train, then it pays for itself tenfold, right? So I brought in leverage, I brought in talent. That's been the key thing. And then the other key component of it has been that we treat agent attraction, is what we call it, or recruiting, or whatever you want to call it, as a separate part of our business. So I think agents forget that they know how to find buyers and sellers. Well, attracting agents is exactly the same, meaning like we have a separate CRM, we have separate marketing, we have campaigns, we have follow-up, we have events. You know how to do it over here with buyers and sellers. You can do the exact same thing with agent attraction. And that's what we did. We just went purposeful and separated the two. And we have a separate arm of our company that handles that. And that's how we've been able to grow and scale it.
Do you have one person that runs that, or do you have multiple people? What does like the support look like for 70 agents?
Yeah. So on the recruiting side, yes, we have an international team who does text messages and calls every day. And we have a recruiter, a full-time recruiter. My director of sales still is on the phone 2 hours a day doing agent attraction calls. And then we also have our director of ops does a small component of the back end of making sure our systems, a lot of technology. So it's just clicking buttons, but it's a lot about having just a real conversation, right? Getting somebody to be willing to meet with you, have those conversations about the opportunity. But yeah, we do have separate staff specifically for that.
How has the team changed now that, you know, your perspective is more on the agent attraction side and also obviously buyers and sellers or consumers and clients? Have you had to put in other systems in place? Have you had to hire more people to kind of fast track that growth in 800 families? That's awesome.
Yes and no. So yes, we are very heavy on the technology side. So we are systemized to the max. Like my husband owns a tech company that's in the real estate space. So I am fortunate enough to have my back end built out. We also run a large international team. So we operate like we have one licensed transaction partner who does anything addendum or legal wise. But then we have a team in the Philippines that processes 95% of that file. So we have been able to operate off of one operations and then one TC for our whole team. But we have a team of 15 international members outside of our organization or outside of our office, in the Philippines and whatnot. But yeah, it's changed. I think the thing is we're very accountable to what the systems and the KPIs. And also we have a lot of heart though. If you ever see us on social media or come to our office, our culture is popping. Like it is high energy, fun, but we are very much aware of where our numbers are at, where the leads are coming in, what's happening with them. And you have to, right?
Yep.
And Raquel, I think the biggest thing for us is things are changing. The market's shifting, everything is changing. And so we're constantly changing. So every time we bring in a new group for onboarding or Hello Week is what we call it, there's usually a tweak. And we're recruiting to our subculture, meaning we're recruiting the culture we want. And so not to our old standards. And over time, we'll be able to change out some of the things that maybe worked a year ago that aren't going to work any longer, And so it's a big emphasis. So we're putting a lot more accountability on our agents that we're bringing in and hoping that our senior agents are okay with that it's changing. And if they're not, it's okay. But they're going to either level up or they're going to level out.
I like that. it's so important as the market changes, as technology changes, as accountability changes sometimes. And I see this a lot on teams is sometimes your senior agents won't grow and that's okay. Right. So as somebody that is a leader, what have you had to learn in leadership? I mean, you probably have amazing talent around you to produce that kind of volume. And you said you guys are big on KPIs and big on accountability. What have you learned? And I'm sure people are asking, what's Spring's role now that she's not in production and she has this massive team that can produce, 800 sides?
Yeah. So two components of it is, what have I learned is I can't want something more than they want it for themselves. So I can provide the opportunity, I can explain the why and the how and what we're doing, and ultimately create the vehicle and that they can have anything they want and they have to be the driver. So the team is the vehicle, they are the driver. As I mentioned, like we just recruited the subculture of this is the standard of what we want and this is how you're being brought on. And it eventually becomes the culture, right? Because people will either be like, I'm adapting to it, or they ultimately leave. As in terms of my daily life of the real estate team, so I work on the team about 1 day a week. So I'm actively involved. On Mondays is what I call my CEO day. And that is the day that I meet with anybody that I directly lead. So we do the EOS system. And so we do a 90-minute tactical meeting every Monday with our key leadership. And then I'll do a few one-on-ones of who I need to meet with. And then every day, besides that Monday, we do a 10-minute huddle as a leadership team that I'm involved in. And then a random meeting here or there of if we're planning something or have to give input on training, or I'll go in and do some of the training sometime. But my team pretty much runs the day-to-day, my leadership team. And I'm overseeing the bigger picture and moving on to do some other things that I'm passionate about.
And I can't wait to talk about all of those. Yeah. You mentioned you guys are recruiting to your subculture, and you had said earlier, Hello Week.
Yeah.
Talk to us about what Hello Week is and how that came about.
Yeah. So Hello Week is hell with an O, as she mentioned. It was because, I couldn't tell who was going to be successful in this business. I went through and did all of the original, like the discs and the ABA, and did all of the recruiting process that we used to do, right? And then there would be people I thought were going to be talent and they totally fumbled. And then there were people I'm like, there's no way. And they crushed it. And so I just realized like, I have no idea until they get into our world to see how they're actually going to show up. So we do a week, it's called Hello Week. During that week, we do basically onboard them to a few of our systems. So we onboard them to our CRM, we give them an email so they have the access, and then we also onboard them into Sisu. From that, they're in training all day, going through how you lead generate, why we lead generate, all these different things. But the key things they have homework every single day. And so the key things I'm looking for is on day 2, we give them 10 old leads from our pond is what we call it. And they have to call text from the CRM to see if they're willing to get uncomfortable. Because call text in a day to 10 people, if you're not used to it, what we find is most people don't get into real estate thinking they're going to be in sales, right? We also give them homework of their SOI, having to call 20 of their SOI in a day. Certain things they have to pass off scripting. I mean, it's a full process, but we want to see how they're going to show up. Because once they make it through their full Hello Week and then our next week of onboarding, if they hit the metrics, we turn them on lead flow, which we have a lot of lead flow. And so we want to make sure they're willing to work. We run an interdependent relationship, meaning I want them to contribute and we want to contribute to them. And what we found is we don't do that. Our subculture that we're recruiting to is that what we used to do is say, oh, you made it through Hello Week, which was not call, text, and a few things. I'm turning you on lead flow.
Yes.
And let's do it. And I'm realizing, oh my gosh, they're not doing anything except for waiting for the phone to ring. And it doesn't really work like long term, And then what I also was realizing is it's been so easy. Like this last 2 years has been so easy that it's like fish jumping in their boat. They haven't had to fish. And so they haven't even known that you have to follow up with somebody multiple times, because it's literally been go show a house, write an offer, right?
Write a really fast offer. It doesn't even have to be put together because there's going to be 30 offers on the table.
Yeah. And you don't have to talk about pricing or negotiating or closing costs or any of that, right? And so when I say we're recruiting to the subculture, is now it's like you're in our CRM. You're following up, proper notes, to-dos, like there's a scorecard on all of it. These are our expectations to stay in our world, which before it was like the wild, wild west. And we're just going back to the basics of what's needed to sell real estate.
Yeah, I love that. I think a lot of people build teams and they have bodies and then they figure out 90 days later or 6 months later, how come this agent hasn't produced? So I wanted to ask that because I'm sure people are wondering, what the heck is Hello Week?
Yeah. So we do a week. After that week, if they made it through Hello Week, we offer them a position on the team, and then we start fully onboarding. We'll have probably 70%, because we're pretty good at knowing before we bring them in for Hello Week if they're going to make it, but 30% don't make it through Hello Week. We know, like we can tell you from day 2, maybe day 3, that they're not going to make it. So
as you were building this team, were there any challenges, or has there been a challenge that you look back and go, I'm glad I had that challenge because it really changed the nature or our business?
Yeah, I had so many of those. Oh my gosh. I call it failing forward. So I think one of the biggest things that probably changed, this was probably 6-7 years ago. I had my entire team walk out besides one person, and it wrecked me. They were like my family, right? And you spent all this time, and I felt burned, and they left for a better split. It wasn't anything was wrong, and obviously there's more to it, but that experience actually started the trajectory of my husband was a consultant at the time, and he had his license, and I was freaking out. Like, what am I going to do? Because that one agent was going to Greece for the summer. So my one agent that didn't quit was going to Greece for like 3 weeks. And Brian just said, I'll step in and help you. It's fine. Like, you'll be fine. But Brian is used to making money. And Brian is used to a high caliber of expectation. So he wasn't going to just get into real estate and be mediocre, right? So he got a Mike Ferry coach, started smiling and dialing from our upstairs. But the cool thing that happened on that, Raquel, is it made me realize there are people willing to do it. Like, this is normal, because I had a team of takers. That's what I created, right? It wasn't that, it was the culture I created of like, here's a lead, go service it. That changed our whole world, because that's how CSU came about. Because he dove in and saw the need. And then it also showed me I could have a different team, and that put me on a path going to recruit and having that interdependent relationship. So I would just tell you guys, when a team member, because I get asked this a lot, oh my gosh, my top agent left, or oh my gosh, it's like, it's all good. Yeah. You just have to keep on building a bench of people that when they do leave, it's okay. Now I would be sad because I love everybody, but it wouldn't wreck me if anybody left.
It's like your first breakup, I say, right? Like it hits you at a dagger, and then you're like, I can't believe that happened. I thought they would be a lifer. Yeah. And then, like you said, like when a whole team walks out on you, you get really good at systems and standards and training.
Yeah. The other thing too, is I have to remember, like, we've all left, meaning you've left an organization. I've left an organization. Like, people are going to leave. Do I want them to be with me forever? Yeah. But I have to also be realistic about that expectation. And so I think when you look at it that way of like, as long as I'm providing the value and we're growing with them and stuff, I feel good about it. I think where you don't feel good is when you could have done more, or you wish that they would have had a conversation with you that you could have given them more or something, but we all leave at some point. So
yeah, I want to flip gears. You're a mom, an entrepreneur, an investor, and the list like goes on, and you got like some awesome projects that you said that you're very passionate about. How do you manage it all?
Well, it's a great question.
How do you prioritize?
Yeah, I'm pretty purposeful with my calendar. So like I said, Monday is my day on the team. And then I live and die by the calendar. My schedule is pretty booked out. Like, you generally cannot get on it within the next 30 to 45 days, which sounds ridiculous, but I just have to have it time blocked. And then I set just proper expectations with my family too. to give you an example, it's back to school. And so my daughter wanted to go shopping. And instead of her being upset or whatever, I was like, I'm available on this day at this time. Does that work? And so she knows. So she's already been texting me. I'm actually taking her after this. She's like, 4:30, mom, right? 4:30, we're going to go. So I just think it's people accept what they expect, but I time block like crazy. And I book out my life on that calendar down to vacations, time with kids. Sounds like a lot, but it's not. And the other thing too is I have a lot of leverage. Mm-hmm. So I have leverage in my home, in the office. Like I pretty much, if it doesn't require me to do it, there's somebody probably doing it for me. And that allows me to be present with my family or here with you or the team or whatever.
So speaking of leverage, whether it's domestic in your personal life or in your business, how do you like find talent and retain talent?
Yeah. What is the saying? Like if you only have one option, it's not an option. 2, it's decision. And 3, you actually have options. So for the longest time, I operated out of like, who do you know? And I would hire anybody. I think it was out of like a pain, and now we're really purposeful about it. So I have amazing people in my world because we've been purposeful about finding them and purposeful about also creating opportunity for them. So in my home, honestly, we ran ads and I just got very specific of what I wanted. And I'm like, man, this person's a unicorn if this is the case. But I put down to like cooking, cleaning, picking up kids, doing my shopping, packing my bags, making sure anything I wanted, I put down. And I was like, nobody's going to do all of this. And yeah, you can find it if you're purposeful about it. Right. And then same with my real estate, my organization, my operations, she's amazing. And so now she runs most of my company, my life in these different companies that I have. And then she has leverage underneath her, right? So she's my right hand of, I do a big event every year in Mexico called Real Estate Spring Break. She runs the whole thing and it's amazing. Or this new event we're putting on, she's handling the whole thing. It will be amazing. And she runs the team, but she has 15 people underneath her that she delegates out what she needs to. So it's good.
I love it. You are known for somebody that scales teams. What have you seen in the industry, or just you own multiple companies, right? So what have you seen that people make mistakes, or some of the mistakes that you see when it comes to finding talent, or when it comes to creating opportunities, or just building teams in general?
I think the number one mistake is just not having a big enough vision. It's interesting. There's a lot of people who want to do a team or they have a team and their vision is very small. And the reality of it is that if they could just even take off the realtor hat, because in my opinion, there's a lot of teams that were formed because out of like, oh, I have extra business or I want some leverage, not to really create a business component, like an actual business, right? So I'd say having a big enough vision, and then it's all about hiring the right who's. Like the right who in your business changes absolutely everything. And I also say vision of being okay to hire. A lot of them are the teams that I run into aren't willing to go hire their talent. They're scared of the overhead. And I like to say, hey, you're only hiring for 3 months. Mm-hmm. So go at it that you're hiring for 90 days. In 90 days, if they aren't having an impact in your business, then you can be done, right? But instead of saying, hey, I'm guaranteeing $100,000, you're guaranteeing, let's say 15 or 18 to take the risk to go, right?
And you're already probably losing that in leads today.
Yes.
In commissions.
Yeah. So I'm just a believer. A lot of times I think teams have paralysis too. Like, I have to have this before I can do this. And it's like, no, go and get some agents and you will figure it out. You can't.
We hear that all the time. And I always say, it's like, I'm going to hire a coach when I have a 6-pack. That's like you saying, I'm going to hire a trainer when I have a 6-pack or when I have my diet dialed in.
Yeah. Makes zero sense. So I'm just a believer of like teams are usually put together out of like, hey, this sounds great. Or I want to get out of my production at some point, but there's no real structure. So our program of our scale up is we take you through leadership to agent attraction to ISAs and lead flow metrics, all of it, the full package of like, these are the components you need in order to scale your organization. And it's fun to see the transformation people are having.
Yeah. There's nothing better than when you can really transform somebody's life and let alone give them a huge opportunity because of your vision. And sometimes they'll take your vision and plus it, right?
Yeah.
When you have
You
the
know
right talent.
what's really fun for me right now, Raquel, is my team now is helping my leadership team get to their goals, right? Because if they get to their goals, I'm hitting my goals. But it's really fun to see like my director of ops right now. She's a single mom. She moved here from San Diego for the job. Like I'm committed to helping her get a home and get financial security and create like stability, for rent. I guess in the state of Utah, there isn't a cap on how much you can raise rent. So her rent just went up to 13%. And I'm like, girl, do you know the number one reason homeownership exists? I know we talk about equity and stuff, but it really is to lock in your payment. Like if you were to buy a home for any reason, it's like, what that payment's going to be instead of somebody raising your rent every year. But that is what gets me going of like, all right, let's go create and help you create the life that you want and the opportunities that you want. So it's really fun right now.
So you've got several different businesses. You've got all the success, right? What are you most passionate about? And like, what keeps you going? What keeps Spring B going?
Growth or progress equals happiness for me. Like people ask me all the time, like, why are you doing this? Or when is enough enough? And I'm like, it's not really about the end result. It's really about the exciting conversations like this or the opportunities. Like, honestly, I booked this event at the end of October. I only booked it like 3 weeks ago. And my team's like, what the heck are you doing? Like, what are we doing? And the reason is because it lit a little fire when she called me and said, hey, I have a venue for you. And I'm like, all right, I'm in. Like that type of stuff it just feels good. And that's what fuels me. And I think it's a challenge of, hey, let's go make something amazing. And I might be a little crazy, Raquel, but that's what's up.
I think you might be my long lost sister because I was just talking to somebody yesterday about Mykonos, like doing a retreat in Mykonos in Greece. So I'm like, oh my gosh, Spring might be my long lost sister. I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
I'm all about, here's the thing, and maybe you're the same, but women ask me all the time, like, how do I find a new friend? Like, how do I find friends to level up with, or that we can celebrate our successes, or
that get me, that don't think that I'm just hustle and nothing else. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that I can travel with. And it's not a big deal to go here or do that. Or if I don't want to go on the hike that day, there's no judgment. And it comes from putting yourself in environments like yours, like mine, that you're going to meet people that are willing to show up for that. And you gain massive friendships, but it starts with, you have to put yourself out there. Right.
For sure.
And start finding those women, but it's fun. And there's plenty of women right now that are looking for it. They're like, I want to find real dating.
And sometimes it's scary because I remember it was like, okay, you put people on this pedestal of like, could I really ask Spring to be part of our event? I totally admire all this stuff that she's doing. And like, could I really ask her? But it's putting yourself in those rooms, putting yourself out of that comfort zone. And why not ask? Yeah, because she can impact a lot of people. So let's talk about your event. What do you got going on? What are you like excited about that you have going on?
Girl, I'm excited about it, period. So I named it Ignite. It's in San Diego, the end of October. The reason that I named it Ignite was a couple of reasons. So when I was 20 years old, was burned in a fire. So I'm 80% big giant scar. And that experience really shaped my life, right? So fire is like a symbol for me. And I named it Ignite just because like the excitement of like, all right, this is a little fire in my belly, let's go. But it's 2 days and it's just all about deepening your connection, igniting that fire within yourself. So what I did it different than most events. A lot of events you go to and you sit in a conference room all day. And I'm like, nobody wants to go to San Diego to sit in a conference room all day. So we've got speakers coming in on health. And when I say health, like Dr. Val is actually the coach for the US Olympic volleyball team, but she talks about hormones and blood panels and inflammation. Like, I don't know how old you are, but I'm in my 40s and that's just real talk at this point.
That is real talk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So and like how inflammation, foods and all that good stuff. Yep.
Yep. So she's coming in for that. I'm bringing in a breathwork facilitator that really about reigniting your soul's purpose. I've worked with in the past. She's done my other events. She's amazing. We have a woman coming in that's your erotic blueprint, which I know is taboo, but yes, we're going to go there because that intimate relationship is such a huge, crucial component of your world. And so she's a coach and she's worked a lot with like Tony Robbins in that capacity. So she's amazing. And then there's a few others, but I also rented a yacht for a sunset dinner cruise. So I really wanted it to be like, come and learn, get some high vibes, but also have enough time to go and connect and build some friendships and find other like-minded women, because whoever's going to be there is going to be like who people you would want to connect with.
And you also get to work on yourself, right? And if you guys haven't checked it out, the venue is amazing. And I know that I'm looking at it to see if it can work with our schedule because I would love to be there. I mean, the venue alone, the speakers that she just talked about, I think it's really cool. I think, especially when you run at a pace that you do and you're a doer, this is your time to like connect with other women and connect and do some inner work. And what better place to be surrounded by so many like-minded women?
Yeah, I have a great tribe of who I've surrounded myself with in terms of who's coming and speakers. And I'm like, I want to grow it. And so if there's somebody who's willing to put themselves out there to come, I'm like, let's freaking do it. So I'm excited. I think I also, like I said, it lit a fire. Like it's 90 days. Like nobody goes and puts on a large event in 90 days, but we're doing it. And here we go. So
you are definitely my soul sister. Because I think our last event we did like seriously 45 days. Jenny's like, are you crazy?
Yeah. My team was like, Spring, they gave me all the reasons. I said, okay, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? The worst thing is it costs me a fortune because to rent.
And we can have a fun trip.
Yeah. I'm like, and at the end of the day, I'll take the risk. So let's go. So that's what
I love it. One of the things that I also love about you is there's very few women that I know that really invest. And that's how I met you in that mastermind. So how did you become an investor? I know I get that question asked a lot, especially in the real estate space when they are making a lot, especially in these last couple of years, making a lot and then, investing it in their business, but not necessarily buying or investing in properties.
It probably came fear-based, to be really transparent with you. I've always made a decent income. And I was like, well, what am I going to do with this? Like, I have nothing. My mom, I love her, appreciate her if she ever listens to this. And I also, she's 60 something years old and has to sell a home to live, and I'm like, I don't want to work all these years to have to do this. So I hired a coach. And I don't even think I knew that's what I was hiring him for, but it morphed into the investment space. And from that, it's a life-changing at this point, because even down to buying properties to cost segregate them, which just so you guys know what that means, it's that you depreciate it for tax purposes up front. And so you can mitigate your tax bill. Like that alone has changed my world the last few years, or I own a commercial building that we office out of and stuff. And so I got into it by hiring the right coach that literally walks you by step of like, okay, this is what you need to do. Or what about this, down to creating a wealth plan. People are not wealthy because they failed to plan. And I'm sure he's said that to you before. He said it to me, hey, Spring, who do you know that's worth $50 million or $100 million? I'm like, I know a few, but not a lot. He's like, do you know why? I'm like, no. He's like, because nobody plans what they're doing. Like they don't plan their wealth. And so I'm sure you did this exercise as well, where you had to create a $50 or $100 million wealth plan. And when you put it on paper, it's like, dang, this actually isn't that hard. Mm-hmm. Like over 30 years, it's not that difficult, but actually like mapping it out. And so I think aligning yourself with the right team too. This is a long answer for your question. Sorry, but I think it's hiring a coach, having the right team of financial, I don't want to say advisors at this point, but we've got great attorneys, great financial advisors, and then recognizing a deal. Like there are deals everywhere, right? So getting the marketing out there, even just going for the notice of default list or absentee owners. People have to sell. And that was the first property I ever bought. I made $100,000 on a wholesale transaction, and I was saving him. He was literally in foreclosure, going to foreclose that week. So he got cash out, or he would have none of his equity, right? He walked away whole. I was able to make money and it was a win-win. And that was my aha. Like, there's a lot of people who need to get out and they have just different situations. So go find the deals. And so it's been fun.
I always say that you never get rich doing transactions or build wealth during transactions. It's always the assets that you collect along the way.
Yeah. The real estate team provides the cash to go and do it. Right?
For sure.
The real estate team can be a cash cow if you choose, but that provides the cash to go in and do some of the real estate transactions that create your wealth.
Yeah, for sure. Where can people connect with you?
Yeah. So my website is springbee.com. If you want to find out on any of the events, or Instagram, it's Spring Bengtzen, spelled ridiculously. I probably should change that, but you'll find me. Just put in.
We'll put it in the show notes as well for all the people that are listening, because I'm sure they're going to want to connect with you.
Yeah, but either of those are great.
Awesome. And as we wrap up, there's always one question that I ask every single person that comes on our show is, what's one thing that Spring does to play bigger in business and in life?
Ooh, you know what? I'm a dreamer. I think that's the number one thing that's missing from people is they stop visualizing what could be. Because what you play on the screen, it reminds a preview of upcoming events. And so you can create anything you can imagine. So just start dreaming.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Spring, for being on our show today. I appreciate you. And I am so excited to keep playing bigger with you, my friend.
Thank you. You too.